In today's lesson, we will solve literal equations. A literal equation is an equation with more than one variable. 3x plus 2y equals 6 is a literal equation because we have the variables x and y. In this equation, we can solve for either the x or the y. When we solve literal equations, we will be told which variable to solve for. Here are some examples of other literal equations. You can solve for any of the variables in any of these equations. Literal is a dictionary term that means related to or being comprised of letters. Well, because variables are letters, we can refer to variables as literals. So solving literal equations is another way of saying take an equation with lots of variables and solve for just one of those variables. How do we solve literal equations? Well, we solve them just like we solve equations with numbers, except our answer will not be a real number, but it will be an expression. For example, here we have the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle. Now, if we are told to solve the formula for the variable w, then we will get w is equal to p minus 2l divided by 2. Notice that our answer is an expression and not a number. So when we solve literal equations, we are just rearranging formulas. And by the end of this lesson, you will be able to solve literal equations. Let's solve this one-step literal equation. And in this equation, we're solving for s. Related to the equation 5 equals 10s. If I were to say to you, how would you solve this equation? You would tell me to divide by 10 on both sides to get the s by itself. Well, we want to use that same concept when we solve literal equations. How can I move that 4 away from the s? By doing opposite operations. So the opposite of 4 times s is divide by 4. So we're going to divide both sides of our equation by 4. And let's draw our line down the equal sign. So that will leave us with 1s equal to p divided by 4, which is s equal to p divided by 4. And so that is our answer. S is equal to p over 4. Now, in this next equation, we want to solve for r. So we're going to use the same concept. I'm going to rewrite the equation. D is equal to r times t. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we need to divide by t to get r by itself. So that means that t divided by t leaves us with 1r equal to d divided by t. And of course, this is our solution. Next, we will solve a two-step equation. This is the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle, and we want to solve for w. That means we need to move everything away from the w. What if we were solving an equation that was 10 equals 2 plus 2w? What would we move first? We would subtract 2 from both sides. Well, the same concept applies over here. We're going to move the 2L by subtracting 2L from both sides. But when we write out our answer, we want to write it out horizontally. So that we have P minus 2L. Next, we need to decide what must we do to get W by itself. We have to move the 2. Well, how can we move it? By dividing, because that's the opposite of multiplication. Over here, we're going to divide all of that by 2. So we're left with W equals P minus 2L divided by 2. This is our answer. In this next literal equation, it is also a 2-step, but this is very familiar to us. Remember in our 8th grade standards, when we put equations in slope-intercept form, we were basically getting y by itself. Well, guess what? You were solving a literal equation, only you just didn't know it was a literal equation. So in this equation, we're going to get y by itself because it tells us to solve for y. So I'm going to rewrite the equation. So if I want to get y by itself, I have to move the 2x. And I move it by subtracting 2x. Now, when I put that 2x on the other side, I want to write it in front of the 6. And the reason why it's plus 6 is because this 6 is a positive number. Next, to get y by itself, I need to divide everything by 3 because the opposite of 3 times y is divide 3. And now 3 divided by 3 leaves me with 1y equal to negative 2/3 x plus 6 divided by 3 is 2. This is the equation solved for y, and this is my answer. Now, I would like for you to try this problem. You're going to record your work and the answer on the note sheet that you were given in class. So in the equation 4x minus 2y equals 12, you are going to solve for y. Now, let us look at another example. In this example, we want to solve for d. Now, this is a little different from what we have seen in the past. So I'm going to rewrite the equation. And remember, our goal is to get d by itself. To do that, we want to remove that denominator of 2. So we're going to multiply by 2 on both sides, and we're really doing 2 over 1. Now, when that happens, we see that 2 divided by 2 is 1, and that just leaves c plus d. And then over here, 2 times q is 2q. Now, our goal is to solve for d. We see that between the c and the d is addition, so the opposite of addition or add is subtract. So we're going to subtract c on both sides. Now, When we write that out, we're left with D over here. And then on the left side, we have 2Q minus C. And this is our solution. Let us look at this equation. This is the formula for the area of a triangle. We are going to solve for B. That means that we want to get B by itself. We see that we have 1/2 times B times H. When you have a fraction and you need to move it to the other side, what we want you to do is multiply by the reciprocal of that fraction. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply both sides by 2. Now, when you multiply a number times its reciprocal, it is 1. Remember, that's one of our properties. So we're left with 2 times A equals B times H. Now, we need to move the H away from the B, so we do the opposite operation, and we divide by H on both sides. So we're left with 1B equals 2A over H. This is our solution. The formula for the volume of a rectangular prism is volume equals length times width times height. V equals L times W times H. In this equation, you're going to solve for L. On your notes page, show how you arrived at your answer choice. I am going to re-letter the answer choices. This is choice B. This is choice C, and this is choice D. Now, on your paper, show your work and choose the correct choice. In this slide, we're given the formula for the volume of a pyramid, which is V equals 1/3 times base times height, and we want to solve the formula for H. On your notes page, show how you arrived at your answer choice. And again, I've had to re-letter the choices. We have choice A, this is choice B, this is choice C, and this is choice D. Please show your work. Now, once you are done, make sure that you write down any questions that you have from the video, and when you return to class, we will answer all questions.